Hey, good evening, guys. Welcome to the meteorology lab. There's a little bit of drone footage getting bounced around by 20-knot winds out of the northwest there. But some very spectacular footage. Looks like a pecan orchard over there. So anyway, that's how it looks. Let's take a look at the weather. We definitely have some weather out there. And there's our live cam. We'll probably try to start using a little bit more of this. Okay, heading to the charts. We've got ourselves a PDS tornado watch out for Alabama. And I think this is a little bit further south than what I expected yesterday. I believe I might have been looking up at Tennessee, up in that area. However, the charts do show that we did have a little bit of a mesolow developing down south. Let me see if I can find that. I had it up on one of these panels. That's the latest hour. It doesn't really show so well, but there is something right there. And I think last hour there was kind of a deeper low down in Alabama, and I don't think the models really came together on that. So as a result, that kind of enhanced the potential for severe weather. And let me show you the theta E. This is the SPC graphics here. And you can see this little ridge of theta E coming up toward that little storm cluster right there. So this is definitely the richer moisture in that area. Let's look at the surface chart. And let me zoom in on that a little bit. There's our low there in Tennessee. It's actually located right here. I think the front fields are a little bit old here. So we're going to go with this here. Okay, there's our isobars, and there's our low right there north of Huntsville. And looking at the dew points, we've got low to mid 60s coming all the way up into Alabama there. And it looks like only when you get up into Tennessee do they taper off. 57 at Chattanooga, 54 out around Bristol, I think, and then 51 up in Kentucky. So definitely the better support for severe weather right here along the nose of that moisture. So that's pretty cut and dry there, and it looks like there's also a front. Let me see if we can zoom in on that a little bit. I'm going to create a different chart here, and we'll pop this up and try to zoom in on Alabama there. Have to take that a little bit further east. And I did want to tell you that I haven't really been following the weather too much because this has been an extremely busy day. We got back from a school board meeting here. Our kid goes to a charter school here, and they were trying to figure out what to do for next year. But they got all that ironed out. And on top of that, when we got back, fire department out there for a gas leak just down the street. We've got neighbors out front who have evacuated there, so kind of a lot going on, and I just sat down here and saw that tornado watch there. So let's zoom in on that region, because we really got to get our hands dirty and get down into the mesoscale. And to kind of enhance that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the county overlays. It's always good to have that right there, and we'll put up the highways. And then I'll just kind of lock that in there. So this is kind of what we do when we sit down and do a mesoscale analysis. If I had more time, we would probably be doing a hand analysis. So let me go ahead and save that there. And we'll plot the current data. So I was talking about a warm front there in Georgia and Alabama. Let me get that centered there. And you can see the air mass over Alabama averaging about 75 over 66 to 67. But if you look in Alabama here, or Georgia, 59 over, let's see here, yeah, about 59 over 58, very saturated. So much different air mass up in this region. So if we try to find the front, got 71 over 69, still kind of warm right there. around Columbus, 71/64, and it looks like it starts tapering off right in here, kind of in this area. So I'm going to go with a frontal location, make that a warm front. Yeah, it looks about like that right there. And you notice that kind of connects back up into that area of storms up in Huntsville. And the cold front is in there somewhere. I'm going to guess it's somewhere in there. So our storms are forming right there at the nose of the moisture, and that's actually the triple point area, because north of that, that's the occluded front. So very classic setup there. And if we want to look at how things are going to progress through the night, we have to find the moisture axis. Looks like it's right in here, 69 all the way up into eastern Alabama, and then it starts trailing off a little bit. So yeah, right in this area there is the support for storms, and it looks like maybe as they move into Georgia, things may taper off a little bit there. So looking at the national scale pattern, there we go. There's all the fronts. Fronts are a little bit old, but maybe about 3 to 6 hours old. But looks like a Canadian front right there, and then a Pacific front extending down into Louisiana. And there's that front that we identified on that other chart. So looking at the storms, there's all that activity there. A couple of tornado watches here, or tornado warnings in pink, up there in northeast Alabama. And let me see if we can zoom in on some of these here. I'll take away some of these overlays so we can see what's going on. It doesn't look like really a classic supercell setup, so we're probably seeing like brief spin-ups, at least at this time. And we zoom in on that. Now there could be HP-ish structures embedded in here, and to really figure that out we need to take a look at the velocity. I had to reinstall all my software. I moved to a new computer a couple weeks ago, and I don't have the good velocity schemes. But let's see here. We need to set up the storm motion vector, and that should balance things out. And yeah, that looks good there. So right now, it doesn't look like anything too bad I can see on here. Maybe in this region right here. Let me go back. Hang on a second. 109. Yeah, we've got a little bit of motion towards the radar right in this area here. Some motion away. I'm trying to figure out if that's an artifact or if that's an actual area of rotation. I guess it could be a rotating updraft right in that area. And then just kind of panning around, possible spot right there. It's way back in the rain there, so that could be some artifact there. Let's see here, 56 inbound, 5 outbound. That is some rotation in there. And let's see, let's look around at some of these other storms. Don't see anything too bad in there. I don't know, maybe something there. This is really not a great color scheme here, so I really need to get that loaded in. And something happening here looks like a kind of a defect in the data. And to overcome that, what we can do is we can go up to a slightly higher tilt. And there we go. Yeah, it looks like we've got 26 inbound, 21 inbound, and about 62 outbound. So that is some pretty good rotation right in that area here. That's let me put a mark there, and that's going to be back in here, and that definitely has the look of, yeah, this looks a little bit more like a classic supercell right there. And let me give you the pattern that I'm seeing right there. Looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? So hopefully there's not anything too bad going on in there. That's going to be, let's see here, I don't have the city names. It's going to be about maybe 5 miles southeast of, I don't even have the city overlays. Let me bring that up here. Yeah, I guess I'm not too familiar with Alabama geography, but I was referencing that town of Steele. I think that's a town, and we're looking at 5 miles southeast of that. So that definitely looks like the big action that I see here. And something there. So quite a few cells here. Definitely some action going on there in Alabama. Let me switch over to the chat here, make sure things are okay. I did check out the microphone, so I'm pretty sure that that is working. We've got Carl Berghoff here and Jeff Krob, WindGrid's author there. PC Grids, WindGrids. Erica Baker here, Coffeyville, Kansas. Showers in the morning and temperatures in the lower to mid-40s. First moderate risk of the season there from Carl Berghoff. Shirley Keast is here with 16 in Michigan. Jeff Krob reporting winter storm watch for Wednesday into Wednesday night, possibly. We have Fun with Tech here, CDMA 531 down in Houston, I think. Let's see, Brett Dean, Burl H, Megan John, 34 in Minnesota. Fun with Tech says several confirmed tornadoes in Alabama this evening. CDMA 531 liking the drone footage. Sue M reporting 61 degrees today, cold front bringing rain and snow for tomorrow. And let me just scroll down. There's quite a bit of chat in here. Tornado sirens in Mississippi. Sue M reporting the audio sounds good. Brett Dean, 37 in southern Jersey. Really nice drone. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's actually my kid's drone, believe it or not. I've been sort of borrowing it, and it's been working really well for the video here. Let's scroll down, go down to the rest. Let's see here. Toto barking in the background. Yeah, there's a dog out there. I guess it's all the gas leak action outside. Is it possible to plot predicted incept fronts by vector averaging? Yeah, it's possible, but the problem is that the character of the fronts, and they tend to change a little bit with each shift, and you kind of lose consistency when that goes on. If you kind of watch it from like hour to hour, I guess it comes out every 3 hours or so, but you'll notice that there are kind of inconsistencies as new shifts come in and start working with that data, and that can really foul up your any extrapolation algorithms there. It's possible, but I kind of think it would just be a novelty. And let's see, color tables. Yeah, Carl Berghoff, they're on the old machine. That's the problem there. I'm still trying to get this computer here set up. So slowly I'm getting there. 40 and sunny in Denver, Mike Estwick. And was today the first PDS? I would think it is. I don't remember any PDSs this year so far. Okay, and just a quick look at the surface patterns. I'm going to use that velocity tensor magnitude there to kind of see the potential temperature field. And there we do kind of see the support there for the warm front. Right down here. And this hints at the location of the cold front, so that extends out to the southwest. You can see the wind vector change, and also the velocity tensor shading in here, indicating that the volumes of air along that boundary there, they're being kind of stretched and distorted along that front right there. And then going up to the north, this is all going to be the occluded front, kind of wrapping up around to the north. So that's kind of cut off from the moisture, the better moisture down in this region. Okay, taking a look at the national conditions. Let's go to the 250 millibar chart. This is up at jet stream level. And 12Z is about the latest we can do there. So we've kind of lost that northern stream there, and we've just got kind of a feed there from Southern California across Oklahoma and off the east coast around Wilmington, North Carolina there. A little bit of a northern stream up here in the northeast. But this jet down to the south, that's going to be the main baroclinic support for that system. And you notice that the jet passes right over that action in northern Alabama. And that's pretty much what we expect there, because the jet, by definition, is going to be sitting over the temperature gradients, which are going to be north of the fronts. Remember that cold front down there and the warm front down into Georgia? Typically, the triple point along that front sits right underneath the jet. So you can use that to find consistency between all the products. So down here, there's all the moisture. And then up to the north, you fall away from the jet there. You're getting up into the occluded portion of the system. And then I think there may be a low up there in the near the Quad Cities. That's kind of cut off from the main baroclinic zone down to the south. Doesn't look like really any big troughs off to the west. Kind of a large, kind of shallow trough going through the southwest, and then there's a big one off the coast there, but that's going to be quite a ways away. And if we consider the long wave pattern like that, big trough over the U.S., big ridge over Alaska, and kind of a big trough working its way southeast there. It's probably going to cut off for a while at least, but maybe when that opens up, we're going to have another round of weather in the southern U.S. Okay, we might as well look at the mesoscale there with the NAM. Doesn't go quite far north enough, but I think that's what we're going to have to take there. All right, starting out at 21Z, about 4 p.m., you can see that warm front right there. Very weak cold front extending down into Louisiana. And let's see what happens. Moving forward, you can see some indications there of convection in northern Alabama. The front is starting to take on some definition in Mississippi. And then moving forward overnight, looks like everything shifts east to the Atlanta area. I would hate to be flying into Hartsfield right now. And looks like another cluster of storms gets going down around Montgomery and Selma. Things move eastward overnight, mostly in Georgia by 2 in the morning, and then by dawn, looks like we've kind of lost some of the convection, and then we've got the front trailing down into northern Florida and off the Mississippi coast. Looks like it kind of stalls out there tomorrow. Looks like the warm front is up to the north. Main baroclinic zone looks like that's up in the Asheville area tomorrow. And then the cold air advection comes in behind, and you can see 35 degrees there Tuesday night. Cold one there for Atlanta. And a pretty good warm up out there in Texas. All right, let's see. That's probably all I want to cover there. Let's look at a couple of SCUTs. What do we have out there in Alabama? I guess we got Birmingham. It's BMX. Bring that up there. And this is this evening's SCUT. Let me go back and look at the 12Z SCUT. Let me see if I can... Let me just see if I can mess with the URL and bring it up that way. Let's see, 03... No, I'm going to just use the menu here. Okay, starting out earlier today in Alabama, it looked like this right here. So this is around 7 in the morning. And you can see quite a bit of moisture there. Pretty good dew point up to 60 degrees, up to about 1,000 feet. Then it tapers off into the lower 50s, looks like about maybe 3,000 feet deep. That's some fairly decent moisture for that area. So it looks like the convective temperature, that area, would be about 73, 74 degrees. So not very strongly capped, and that moisture there is really the critical factor. And then we look at the lift itself, some modest cape all in there. And then we got the wind field. We're kind of lacking low-level jet. So it's kind of weak down there in the low levels, but it picks up in the mid-levels here up to 30 knots out of the west. So that might be enough to stretch out the photograph between those two levels right there. And let's see how things shaped up during the afternoon in Alabama. Go up to 20 at 0Z. So there's this evening. Looks like the moisture has improved a little bit right near the surface and has kind of held its ground up to about 3,000 or 4,000 feet. So that moisture field really holding in there really good. And let me do a parcel lift and we'll see what those storms are dealing with. Convective temperature there about 78, 79 degrees. There's probably some breaks in the cap here and there. Some locally enhanced lift along the front, so we can easily break it. And there we go. Pretty good cape. Looks like it's improved from the morning hours. And yeah, now we're looking like more of a tornado type profile right there in the lower levels. You can see we go from kind of light flow at the surface. Light flow can definitely help you out. That can help stretch out that bottom part of that photograph, and then right off the surface, southwest at 40, and then 50 knots up above that. So that's pretty good there. Let me see if they've got a photograph plot. I'm kind of curious. Yeah, they do. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the hook right there, kind of the hook shape. And it's that lowest part right there that's kind of critical. It looks like, yeah, storm motion would probably fall in here somewhere. So, yeah, there's some pretty decent storm meltophilicity being swept out there. And if the winds were a little bit lighter at the surface, take a look at this. Say the surface winds are out of the southwest at 5 knots or 3 knots. That would stretch that photograph out even more there. So it's not always good to have strong surface winds gusting out of the south like you see in a lot of chase videos. It's the weakening and especially the backing of the low-level flow. If you get like a mesolow developing in that region, the eastern and northeastern quads of that mesolow can really enhance that even further. The only downside is that this photograph is a little bit weak. I mean, you can see that's only 10 knots right there, and then there's 20 and 30. So the flow is a little bit on the weak side there. I don't know, this could be, I think that might be, is that meters per second? Let me take a look here. It's always important to be familiar with your units there. 35 knots at 300 millibars. Let's check that out. Yeah, 300 millibars. It's actually 75 knots. Okay. Yeah, I think that was a meters per second plot there, so it's actually not as bad as it seems. So, yeah, this is actually a very potent wind field there. So, yeah, ignore what I said at the very beginning there about things looking weak. Okay. Starting to see red there on the water vapor. Haven't seen that in a long time. So we've definitely got some very cold and very vertical tops on those cells there. Looks like some weaker stuff around the Lake Charles area. And it looks like we do have a little bit of dry air aloft, and that can certainly help the severity of those storms right there, and also enhance the updraft through entrainment of that dry air. Got a little bit of visible imagery. Let's bring that up. You can see the storms developing starting around 5 p.m. or so. And that's them right there. You can see the overshooting tops here and there, especially as the sun goes down. And that very long anvil streaming out to the east. And that's one thing I remember about Oklahoma. When you get those storms out on the dry line out to the west, you'll see like an anvil going from one side of the sky to the other, just this huge anvil, and eventually you start getting the nematis appearing. It's very, very spectacular there. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to probably leave you with that and take a look at the chat. Get the chat to update here. Yeah, very busy in there. CDMA 531, looking at the Birmingham velocity, some shear by Atala. Jeff Krob not getting audio. Let me check the audio here. Yeah, the audio is going out fine. Okay, nobody else complaining about that. That's good. Is there a website with all of the issued warnings for the year? That's a good question. There's a site called, let's see if I can find it. I think it's called Kamala. I'm just kind of taking a guess here. I think I've seen archived products in here, but I'm not too sure how far back it goes. But I would probably poke around on that site. And that's the only one I can think of. If you really need to get historical data, there's the SRRS system from NOAA, the Service Records Retention System, and they will have all of the warnings. But the problem is you've got to pull them out, I think one day at a time or something like that. You've got to go through a web interface. And anyway, that's how you would do that. Okay, one last look at the radar before we move on to the models. Looks like we got quite a few cells. This is indicating a weak cap. Since we've got so many of them, there's a lot of cell competition going on. Let me animate this and see what's going on here. Yeah, that's our big cell, it looks like right there, moving eastward, almost heading into Georgia. And let me bring up the tornado warnings. Yeah, we got one good cell right there. You can see that vortex up in the north side of the storm. This is going to be an HP-ish structure right there. Let me zoom in on that and give you the velocity product. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll have the new color tables. Let me go down to the lower tilt. And I'm going to play around with the storm motion vector. See if I can kind of tease some of the velocities out of here. Let's see here, 6 outbound, 41 inbound. Looks like some rotation right in there. Yeah, that's that vortex. Out on the front side, there's some aliasing going on. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Yeah, that's all kind of messed up there. Or that could be the color table, actually. And it's always good to go up to the higher tilts and make sure you're not missing detail. Vertical consistency is very important there. And yeah, it looks to me like it's that one vortex. And let's check out what's going on down south. Yeah, there's our couplet right there. That's going to be north of that town of Wellington on State Route 204 there, just north of there. So let me drop a dot in here. Yeah, it looks like that's embedded in quite a bit of rain, so some serious problems for spotters there, especially with losing the daylight. And now you got to contend with that rain there. And just checking around a couple of other cells, and these two have potential since they're on the leading edge and down south in some of that deeper moisture. And we're getting a TVS indication on that cell, and I really don't like this color table, but yeah, it looks like right in here. A couple of good couplets in there. And that's also embedded in some rain there. So that's what's going on in Alabama this evening. Okay, let's see here. Let's go into the models and see what the trend is going to be overnight. We can start with the high resolution rapid refresh, and this will give us kind of an indication of how the character of the activity will change. So it looks like it initialized pretty well there, all the cells. It's probably not picking up very well in the southern cells. That's one problem that I do see. However, it looks like everything will just progress eastward. It'll be in the Atlanta area in a couple of hours. And it should, most of the cells should diminish, but this is indicating there could be a bit of a corridor of rotating cells possibly in that area right there. I think that would be just slightly south of Atlanta, extending out towards, I think that's Athens, towards midnight to 1 in the morning. Then we end up with kind of an MCS moving across South Carolina, and then that should be off the coast by dawn. So a very quick motion there. We do have the wraparound out there in the Ohio Valley and West Virginia, and cold air advection following in the wake there. Getting a little bit of snow there being indicated south of St. Louis, out towards Cairo and Paducah. Okay, for tomorrow, let's see. We'll check out the NAM. No, let's do the GFS. There you go. So you can read the date and time. Up at the top, there's the valid time right there. So things will move eastward, and you can see them moving out offshore. Looks like some inclement weather there for Virginia, north of that low. If we have conditions cold enough for snowstorms, that would be the area of heaviest snowfall right in that region. So looks like it's probably a little bit too warm for that, but they should get some convective elements moving across that area and some heavy rain. Cold air advection coming in the backside, 540 line coming all the way down to Memphis and Nashville, so another cold shot coming in. High pressure sitting across the plains for midweek. Looks like that occlusion there kind of hanging on around West Virginia and Virginia, so a little bit of snow affecting that region. And then kind of a weak nor'easter moving up the coast. Then we get the warm air advection setting up in the high plains for Thursday, and then we have a new system coming in from the Pacific. So that'll be moving across California on Thursday and Friday, and then crossing the Rockies on Friday. Strong winds coming up into the plains, and it looks like warm front will be lifting northward through Kansas and Arkansas on Friday. So that's the setup right there. Probably got a dry line out in this region right there. So it looks like when this finally pulls out, we'll probably have some potential in that area right there in the Central Plains. Yeah, there it is right there, Kansas City. Cold front will be extending southward, warm front to the north, and of course the warm front is what we're very concerned about usually in spring. So it looks like some potential there in Kansas City. Let me back that up. That's actually 6 in the morning on Saturday, so that'll work in. That'll help out quite a bit. 6 in the morning, that's kind of like the convective minimum right there. So that should help prevent there from being too much severe weather. But it looks like later on Sunday, yeah, now we heat up, and we're probably looking at maybe some weather there in Kentucky and the Paducah area. Looks like another shot coming in from the west right there. Things going downhill once again. And that emerges out into the plains. This one goes even further north. And then kind of a tail end system in Texas. This is on Sunday, the 25th. Looks like we get some storms along this inverted trough right there. Gulf is definitely open, so yeah, I'd be looking at definitely some storm potential there Sunday and Monday. More storms in the hill country right there along that inverted trough, kind of a persistent feature, and then things shift east and south. A little bit of cyclogenesis there in South Texas, and that moves off into the Gulf. So it looks like the western Gulf will be a little bit active next week. More cold air coming in. Wow, this is kind of a blast from Canada. So there's the frontal system. You can see that big 1040 millibar high up there in Canada on the 30th going into the 1st. So it looks like some very cold weather for the plains coming in. That may put a halt to spring temporarily. So we got looks like quite a bit of activity coming up for the next couple weeks here. So hopefully we'll be done with the gas leaks and school meetings and all that, and we can do some hand analysis. I'm still trying to work on setting all that up, so that should be some fun there. Okay, let's see here. Weather graphics and Periscope running live. I guess Periscope is for some of the chasers and spotters out there. Tornado reported on the ground in East Alabama. Carl Burkhoff mentioning the 13 likes. Yeah, please just hit the like button. Just take the mouse and click it, and yeah, that would really be appreciated. And I think that will help our rankings on YouTube. Maybe bring in a few more viewers. Okay, I think that's about all I got for this evening. I'm going to see how things are going outside. So hopefully you'll have a good evening and stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.